I can't be the only one who microwaves coffee, so I made a pot, and maybe my heart doesn't like that, but I've got a lot of plans for today, and I want to try and do an at-home date with my husband tonight, so just trying to get everything done. Got school with my oldest done, wanting to do some stuff with the kiddos that are the other two kids, and do some quilting. And I think you are mostly here for the quilting. When I was heating up the coffee, I forgot to mention that, hi, I'm Josephine. This is my channel, The Versatile Housewife. I go over lots of things, and today's video is about quilting. So this I did on the 24th of February. I have the speed bumped up 4x, but the first thing I did was took some pieces that I was able to work on and I ironed them. I also ended up stitching a few of these together. These are the basic building blocks that lead to the larger mass of just color explosion that is this crazy quilt. And if you caught there, I did just go ahead and stitch that together. But yeah, there's a few different methods I use. Some of it is just putting the sides together, doing a straight up seam, and now as the quilt has gotten bigger, I rely on the zigzag stitch a lot more, and I will explain as much why later, because it's going to make sense as I start showing off the larger pieces, which I do have. So I have a couple larger chunks that I'm going to pull out and iron them, and I think it's starting to look really beautiful. So as you can see, there's the front, and then as I turn it around, I have some areas I can snag just taking off these loose pieces, because when it does finally come down to the time where I hand quilt everything together, I don't need all those extras. And plus, the nature of this quilt, I can often use a lot of those extra pieces that I cut and just stick it on the front of this. But I think it's starting to look so beautiful. Even the scrappy side of it, it's just kind of neat to see how many different little pieces came together. Okay, so what I do for this is I try to lay it out as flat as I can. A lot of the fabric is buckling, but I don't really care because this quilt is a crazy quilt. It's a scrap quilt. It's meant to take a lot of my favorite fabrics that I don't really have any other kind of use for and make them useful. The other nice thing with the way that I'm doing this quilt and hand quilting it, I'm not going to be concerned about there being an uneven, unflat surface when I'm doing the quilting, because I'm going to be hand quilting it. I'm not going to be machine quilting it. But if I get any kinds of tears or anything like that over time, I can just patch it up, because that is the look of it. So I think it has a very kind of like beachy type of maximalist feel. Like it makes me think very much of like a late spring, early summer kind of thing. So what I do to try and place, now that it's getting bigger and bigger, I have done things in the beginning where I then like cut, or I would basically, let's say, take this and do like a straight stitch here. Well, no, it would need to be this way. So I have options. I can do a straight stitch and have a straight stitch like that. I kind of like that look. It's very crisp. It's nice. The only thing I don't like is how many of the fabrics are matching up. And as this is getting bigger and I have repeating fabric use, I'm probably going to lean increasingly on the zigzags, simply because I don't want the same fabrics matching up. I want it to be every fabric outside of the pink. The pink was a fail. It was like I was like 12 trying to do a quilted pillow on my own without looking it up or anything like that. But outside of the pink, all the seams should be against a different fabric pattern. So I'm not going to do that. What I am going to do is try and find a spot where I like it. Like this. This is working so far. Let's see. That works. And something may be lost in that. So this one has much bigger pieces than this. So what I think I'm going to do is trim this, make this straight, and then stitch here. So, clip that. Selvage is pretty thick. I don't want it to interfere when I do start sewing. There we go. That's clipped. So I think we're going to zigzag stitch this. This isn't my favorite look. I think it could be a little bit more varied because these are very soft. But overall, I do think once the quilt is done, I don't think I'm going to notice this at all. Plus, the white zigzag's going to give just a bit of a break between how that looks. I'm also thinking I'll place this somewhere too. I like the look of this. So I was thinking put the blue fabric here to kind of fill it in a little bit. But I'll worry about that later. I think I can remember that that goes there. If not, I can always quickly just put a pin in it. But I also have this as an option to go here. It's rounded, so nope, that matches. I don't want to do that because that matches. Now, how about this? Does this work? If we were to stick it, oh, see, I have a missing piece here. This is what I mean. The fabric kind of comes in. Also, my comforter is not even and it's all bumpy. So I'm going to go ahead and pin this and worry about that side later. A little bit of this a day keeps the impatience bug away. Actually, no. A little bit of this a day, and before you know it, this will be done. I just keep reminding myself that it'll be done eventually. You know, if you're intimidated by quilting, just know you will always be better than me. Because I like color, not necessarily neatness or orderliness. So this is gonna be appealing to a select few, but I hope it's encouraging. I'm doing it. And by the end of it, I will have a quilt. And since it's for me and for my tastes, it's everything I could want. So I'm a burgeoning maximalist. I love color. Green is my favorite color around. Pink is my favorite color to wear. Ironing and starch are your best friends for working with things like this, and I would imagine using any surface that's not lumpy duvet, duvet comforter cover, quilt, not quilt top, it's a comforter, I guess. I don't know. I'm learning. But yeah, this is not going to be like flat or anything. But I think there's something very charming about quilts like this, and then hand stitched and that patchwork feel. And again, what I said about this quilt that I'm really looking forward to is might be a small reason to have a small amount of these fabrics left in a little box just in case, but it's going to be so easy to repair because it's an extremely scrappy, patchy patchwork quilt. So, I mean, even if I just get new fabric in the theme of this, if I get a tear or anything, depending on how the tear is, I can either run over it with bigger zigzag stitches, and I know that will reflect on the backing of the quilt, which I'm probably just going to use a nice single color, maybe get something off Spoonflower or just see what I have. Or to cut another piece and stitch it on. So now we're coming to the part where I said I'll probably, let me see, did I capture any of the, yes I did. Okay. All right. This part, I wanted to preserve more of this side. So, no pun intended, I'm going to pin where I want it because I'm zigzag quilting, so it's, or zigzag stitching, not a big deal. I'm going to pin where I want it. This is how I preserve that line, so when I cut, it's not wonky. I'm going to pin where I want it, and I'm going to iron it. So I'm going to move it to my ironing board, which is all cluttered. And I unplugged my iron, so now I'm going to plug it back in. All my scraps. Oh no, something got caught. Oh, you got caught. There we go. Now my skin got caught. There we go. All right, to the ironing board. All right. Okay. Okay, nice and hot. Okay. So here's this section here. You see how I have it? What I'm going to do is take this carefully, not melt my pins. Maybe I'll use my left hand. And I'm going to just get that edge. So it just retains its crispness. Because I'm not very good at finger pressing. And now what I can do, pull the needles out, keep them somewhere safe, take my scissors, and I'm just going to cut where the crease is. All right, and put this somewhere. And now I can continue to pin it just like this. Put one in the end. Because absolutely, I find because of using pins, the pins themselves can kind of wiggle the fabric. And I am not concerned about, what is the word called? The direction of the threads. Because I am not concerned about the buckling. The same thing with the postage stamp quilt. I'm not really concerned about it because I'm using it to use up scrap. So I'm not trying to aim for perfection. I used to be a perfectionist. I mean, I still can be, but I've really worked hard since I had my first baby because I just realized with motherhood, I can't just be perfect and get everything done. Because with perfectionism, basically, if it's not perfect, you kind of give up. You end up in this like freeze state. That's the negative side of it. And then you don't get anything done. So, oh, I still have this to do over here. Finish stitching this up. This is much flatter than the bed, but it's pretty good. Yeah, see, it's kind of buckling. So now if I want, I can course correct and check, make sure there's nothing there. Now if I want to, I can take these out and redo it, which I think the amount of wiggle here and buckling is enough where I would like it to be flatter than that for sure. So I'm going to do that, take these out, and repin. And this might be all I really get done today is attaching this piece. Maybe another section, maybe that little divot, fill that in. So, but yeah, so my kiddos, I hear them in the background. I don't know if you could hear them yelling in the background, but very busy household. And I got a lot to do, but a little bit each day keeps the unfinished tasks from building up with no end in sight. They get done. Keeps the laziness away. I don't know. I'm gonna go ahead and put it at different spots. The only thing is I'm pinning the iron board fabric. So one thing I've been learning as I have been trying to get better at these videos and getting more comfortable speaking is a lot of times what I remember saying and what I say are very different in terms of I literally misspeak a lot. And It's wild. And a lot of times I'll say like, I don't do something, but what I say is I do something. And I used to have that issue in school when I was in elementary school. Then I became homeschooled, but before that, I'd like raise my hand, confidently answer something, and it was straight up wrong. But I did not remember saying the opposite answer. So I don't know what that's a sign of, but I do that a lot. I don't know if it's just an unfinished thought. Okay, we're not attached to the ironing board. But it's incredibly frustrating. I used to see my grandma doing all kinds of quilting, crocheting, sewing, doing things like this. I wish I lived closer to her, but work opportunities for my husband were better. So we moved out of state. Now I'm not near my family, really. But it's okay. It's a good life for my kiddos. That's what's important. Prioritizing them, their needs, and my husband's ability to facilitate their lives. And as they get older, we can change up how we do things, or I can visit more. But financially, this is a great way to facilitate caring for them. And so they'll grow up to love this area. And I know for my mom, she grew up in New York, moved to Florida, similar situation to me. Work opportunity, I mean, for her, it was my grandparents. Work opportunities were better in Florida. And then me and my siblings grew to love Florida. Anyway, this is ready to be zigzag stitched, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Not me being a floor gremlin. Anybody else sew on the floor? I have a little desk thing or multiple desk things, but until I get the closet situation settled, which I don't know if you remember, but in a previous video, it's a cluster, you know what. So, no pun intended. But, I'm gonna go ahead and do, wait, hold on. Here. Yeah, getting them stuck all over the place. Probably shouldn't have stuck my fingers there like that. Let's get this zipped up. See if I can do anything else. Oh, I don't want that to move. I didn't realize until I was done filming everything that you can't see my head in like almost any video I take, so sorry for that. So right now, there is some buckling going on, and I have to think to myself, do I want to leave a crease in it, or try to get a crease to stay in it so it lays flat, but now I have a crease, or do I pull it out and undo it? And I'm going to try to just let it have a crease because that's how wild I am. I want this done more than anything, so. Okay. So, I see we are having issues here. I think this fabric pulled over and I did not. Yes! Alright, well, my quick trick didn't really work. So, now I need a seam rip. I used to let seam ripping basically ruin my entire sewing plans. And sometimes to the point where I would just like give up for years. But I've kind of made the effort to be like, you know what? I can go back and I can seam rip the spot that I had an issue with. And then after that, I can call it quits for the day so I can kind of rest afterwards. But at least fix that issue that day. I mean, as long as I have time. And usually it turns out that I can finish the project, but it definitely is very frustrating to have to go back and seam rip, and zigzag stitches are very annoying. See, it's wanting to capture just the fabric, because this is not like a normal seam. It's not a regular seam. Very frustrating. You know what I'm gonna do to make this easier on myself, where it's still okay. This might be taking chances. Let's try something, right? It's scrappy. I am going to pick up here and keep going so that I just have this section, because this, wherever it's pinned down here, is still okay. So I'm gonna start here, pick up here, fix it later. Seam rip that, do that. Let's go for it. I did end up having to seam rip an entire section apart. I think about a third of everything I had pinned for this large piece, attaching to the main piece. It was frustrating to do it, but I'm glad that I did it. So seam ripping is not the end of the world. I've got it flat again, pulled out. It just takes time. It feels like a waste of time. It feels like a waste of thread, and it obviously impacts the fabric to some degree, especially with working on the edges. So now it won't be as neat. I'm not going to trim it up and cut it to make it straight. I'm just going to pin it, zip it up, call it a day. Lay it out, show it off. I don't think I'm going to work on that tiny piece. It is what it is. I try to do a little bit here and there, and eventually it's going to be done. It's not even March yet. I think I will have this done by May. I had a lot more filmed, or at least I thought I did, but my phone actually died. A lot of times it was just running and I was tending to my children. So, dinner, bath, bed, and just the normal nightly cleanup. Later, here we are. This is what I have. This is what I was able to do because I figured I would zip up what I could too, even though my phone was dead. I wasn't going to worry about it, let it charge. This is where we are, and I'm thinking maybe even do like an oval or circle kind of quilt. That would be fun, unique, and different. That'd be a fun shape. But I'm getting very excited. I do have like a section here where I'm going to start considering trying to see if it'll lay more flat. Now, obviously, I can't really do that on the bed. I would need to do it on the floor. And when I get to that point, because now that we're getting to these larger edges, I have to actually consider doing that now. It is going to be the kind of thing where I can only do it in the evenings. And since I'm trying to do the triple bunk, that's going to be a little bit of a toss-up. So, I don't know. Progress might go faster because we're getting to these edges. Or progress might go slower given the nature of what I'm trying to do. But if you are interested in keeping updated as I work on finishing this quilt, I would love it if you subscribe and gave this video a thumbs up if you liked it. And I hope that you have a wonderful week. Bye.